Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be tackling dementia today,
Yeah.
and I think it's a really important topic for, all of you future mental health
Yeah, absolutely.
champions.
Big one.
Yeah. So we've got a stack of research articles here,
Oh, yeah.
but don't
Yeah.
worry, we're not going to bore you
No,
about
no,
all the
no.
details.
We're going to really break it down and think about what you guys need to know
Exactly.
as future mental health
Yeah.
practitioners.
Yeah. So I think one thing that really struck me when I was going through this material was just like the sheer scale of this issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're talking about nearly 7 million Americans over 65 living with Alzheimer's right now.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that number could like double by 2060.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm curious from your perspective, what does that tell us about the importance of understanding dementia for mental health professionals like you?
Well, I think it tells us that this is going to be a really big part of your practice. As the population ages, we're going to be seeing more and more people affected by these conditions. And so really getting a good grasp
Yeah.
of what dementia is, how to diagnose it, how to support people
Hmm.
is going to be absolutely essential.
And we can't forget about the economic side of things either.
Well, absolutely not.
You know,
Big implications there.
$360 billion this year alone for dementia care in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a huge number.
and projected to just explode to almost $1 trillion by 2050.
Yeah, and you have to think about, where is that money coming from? A
Yeah.
lot of it is coming from families,
Yeah.
who are having to pay out of pocket
Yeah.
for care for their loved ones.
So that brings us to another really important point, I think, which is that dementia is an umbrella term,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, it's not one thing,
Yeah.
right? It's like a category.
I'm just saying fruit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like fruit. You got apples, oranges, bananas, all different kinds of fruit. And in the same way, there are different types of dementia.
Yeah. So it's more like a fruit basket than a single apple.
A fruit basket. Yeah, I like that.
So I guess that's why it's so important to,
Yeah,
understand the different types of dementia because it,
absolutely.
impacts the care that you provide.
Yeah, because they all have different, underlying causes, different symptoms, different
Mm-hmm.
trajectories.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the brain for a second.
Okay.
What's actually happening
Yeah.
in there when someone has dementia?
Well, the brain is so complex, right?
Yeah, it's really
Oh,
complicated.
you can almost think about it like a vast network of roads
Nope.
and highways
Okay.
connecting different regions. And what dementia does is it starts to kind of disrupt those connections.
So it's like traffic jams and roadblocks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Preventing information from flowing smoothly.
And those changes start happening way before
Yeah.
any symptoms show up.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Like 20 years earlier.
20 years earlier, these subtle changes are happening
It blows my mind.
at a microscopic level.
Yeah.
Long before we see any outward signs.
Wow. And that kind of makes me think about all the exciting research that's happening around biomarkers.
Mm-hmm.
From what I read, blood tests are emerging as a potential game changer
Yeah. It's incredible.
in diagnosing Alzheimer's early on.
Yeah.
Imagine that just a simple blood draw
Yeah.
could help us identify those at risk and potentially change the course of the disease.
Yeah, that's the hope, isn't it?
It is.
And it's not just blood tests. Researchers are looking at
Yeah.
all sorts of other biomarkers,
Yeah.
things like, cerebrospinal fluid,
Right.
and brain imaging,
Oh.
different ways of peeking into the brain.
So it's like having all these different tools
Exactly. Yeah, a whole toolkit.
to try to figure out
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So the more we understand about what's happening, the better we can, develop treatments and interventions.
Speaking of treatments,
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the latest developments
Yeah.
in that area.
Yeah.
Are there any breakthroughs that we should be aware of?
Well, there's definitely reason for optimism, I think. We've seen new drugs like lecanemab
Yeah.
being approved by the FDA,
Right.
which target that amyloid buildup in the brain.
Yeah.
They're not a cure,
Okay.
but they have shown some promise in slowing down the progression of the disease.
So it's not just about managing symptoms anymore. We're actually starting to target
Yeah.
the underlying causes.
Yeah. I think that's a really important shift
That's amazing.
in the way we're thinking about dementia.
Yeah. And beyond the medications, are there other treatment strategies?
Oh, tons.
Oh, wow.
Researchers are looking at everything from, lifestyle interventions,
Okay.
diet exercise, to cognitive training,
Right.
keeping the brain active and engaged,
Yeah.
even gene therapy, really cutting edge stuff.
That's incredible.
That's a really exciting time to be in this field.
It sounds like there's a lot of hope on the horizon.
Yeah, I think so.
But, while we're waiting for those scientific breakthroughs,
Yeah,
we can't forget about the human side of dementia.
absolutely not.
How can we best support individuals and their families who are facing this challenge right now?
Yeah, that's really the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about all the science, but ultimately
Yeah.
this is about people
It is.
and their experiences.
Yeah.
And so I think as mental health professionals, it's really important to remember that.
Right. And it's not just the individual living with dementia.
No.
It's also their families and their caregivers
Absolutely.
who are,
Front lines.
providing support often for years.
Yeah.
And they're facing their own challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The emotional stress, the physical
Yeah.
demands the financial burden.
It can be completely overwhelming
Yeah.
for families.
It's like this ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
The person with dementia needs care.
Mhm.
The caregiver needs support.
Yeah.
And the system needs to be equipped to handle it all.
Exactly.
It's a lot.
It is. Yeah. And so a part of our role as mental health professionals is to advocate
Yes.
for better support systems
Yeah.
for both the individuals living with dementia and their families.
And I was thinking about that as I was going through these materials. There was something that really caught my eye,
Okay.
which was music therapy.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, who would
Yeah.
thought
Right.
that music could play such a powerful role in dementia care?
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It seems to tap into
Yeah.
like a deeper part of the brain.
Yeah. Beyond language, beyond, conscious memory.
So even when words and memories have faded,
Yeah.
music can still provide a way to connect.
Yeah. And to bring joy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It is.
And it reminds us that even in the face of dementia, there's still so much potential for meaning
Yeah.
and connection.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening conversation so far.
It has.
And I feel like I'm already so much more equipped to approach dementia care with, both knowledge and compassion.
Yeah.
But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah. We've only just scratched the surface.
We've just gotten started.
Yeah.
So in our next segment, we're going to delve into the cutting edge of dementia research,
Right.
looking at the latest breakthroughs in diagnosis and treatment, and the critical role of risk factors
Sounds good.
in shaping the dementia landscape. So
I'm ready.
grab your coffee, tea, whatever gets your brain firing, and join us for part 2 of our dementia deep dive.
All right. See you there. Welcome back to our deep dive into dementia.
All right, so, one thing that keeps coming up is this idea of biomarkers.
Yeah.
Can you break down what those are and why they're so important in the context of dementia?
Sure. So biomarkers are basically measurable indicators of what's happening
Okay.
at a biological level.
Okay.
So think of them like clues that can help us detect and track
Gotcha.
changes in the brain that are associated with dementia.
So it's like having a window into the brain,
Exactly. Yeah.
even before any symptoms appear.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's incredible. And, we talked about blood tests earlier, but
Mhm.
are there other types of biomarkers that are being researched?
Oh, yeah, there are lots.
Really?
One that's really promising is looking at the cerebrospinal fluid,
Okay.
which is the fluid that surrounds the brain and the spinal cord.
Right.
And there are certain proteins that we can measure in that fluid
Okay.
that can give us an indication of, whether there are changes happening
Interesting.
that might be suggestive of dementia.
And one of those proteins that I remember reading about was tau.
Yeah, tau is a big one.
Um,
Tau is a protein that's involved in the structure of brain cells.
okay.
And in Alzheimer's disease, tau gets kind of tangled up. It forms these abnormal clumps, and that disrupts the communication between brain cells,
So it's like
which leads to cognitive problems.
it's like wreaking havoc on the communication network.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like gumming up the works.
Interesting. And so by measuring tau levels,
Yeah.
we can maybe identify these changes early on.
That's the hope. Yeah.
That's amazing.
If we can catch it early enough,
Yeah.
then maybe we can do something to slow it down.
And that brings me to my next question, which is treatments.
Yeah.
I know there's no cure for dementia yet, but what are some of the most promising treatment approaches
Sure.
on the horizon?
Well, we talked about lecanemab earlier,
Right.
which is a new drug that's been approved.
Yeah. How does that work exactly?
So lecanemab is an antibody,
Okay.
and it targets those amyloid plaques that we were talking about before.
Right.
So it basically binds to the amyloid protein
Okay.
and helps the body clear it from the brain.
So it's like a targeted cleanup crew.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
going in and getting rid of those harmful plaques.
That's a good way to put it.
That's amazing.
So it's not a cure,
Right.
but it has been shown to slow down cognitive decline in some people.
That's really encouraging.
Yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and are there other treatment strategies that researchers are excited about?
Oh, yeah, tons.
Oh, wow.
People are looking at everything from lifestyle interventions,
Okay.
like diet and exercise,
Right.
which we know are good for brain health,
Yeah.
to cognitive training,
Mm-hmm.
doing puzzles and brain games and things like that.
Keeping the brain active.
Yeah, keeping the brain active and engaged.
Yeah.
There's even research into gene therapy,
Wow.
which is really cutting edge stuff.
That's incredible.
Trying to actually correct the underlying genetic defects that might be contributing to dementia.
Gene therapy for dementia.
Yeah,
That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
it does a little bit.
But it just highlights how much progress
Yeah,
is being made
absolutely.
in this field.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
So it's really encouraging.
It is.
And as future mental health practitioners,
Yeah.
we need to stay informed about these advances
Yeah, absolutely.
so we can provide the most up-to-date
Yeah,
and effective care.
for sure.
Absolutely. And there's so much information out there about dementia.
Yeah.
It can be hard to know where to start.
It can.
What are some reliable resources that,
Sure.
mental health students can turn to?
Well, professional organizations like the Alzheimer's Association
Okay.
are a great resource.
Okay.
They have a ton of information on their website.
Yeah.
And then also a lot of universities and medical centers have specialized dementia care centers
Okay.
that offer educational programs and support groups.
So there's a lot of support out there
Yeah, definitely.
for people who want to learn more about dementia.
For sure.
Okay, great. So we've got the scientific breakthroughs happening
Yeah.
on one side,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've got the support systems and resources available on the other.
Yeah.
But there's another crucial piece to this puzzle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is understanding the risk factors
Yeah, absolutely.
for dementia.
Yeah.
So we can actually help people
Mm-hmm.
take proactive steps to protect their brain health.
Prevention is key, right?
It is.
And the great thing is that a lot of the risk factors for dementia are modifiable,
Okay, what does that mean?
meaning that we can actually do something about them.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so for example, things like cardiovascular health,
Okay.
high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes,
Right.
those are all risk factors for dementia.
So what you're saying is that taking care of our hearts
Yeah,
is also good for our brains.
exactly. They're very interconnected.
That's a powerful connection.
It is.
And it's not just about physical health. Right.
Mental and social engagement
Right.
are also really important.
Yeah. Staying active,
Hmm.
learning new things,
Yeah.
maintaining strong social connections.
Absolutely.
Those can all help protect cognitive function.
Yeah, it's all about keeping the brain active.
It's like a holistic approach to brain health. It's
Exactly.
mind, body, and social connections all working together.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great.
It's a really important message.
It is a message that we need to be shouting from the rooftops.
For sure.
This has been such an enlightening conversation
It has.
about the latest research
Mhm.
and what it means for the future of dementia care.
Yeah.
But I know there's one more crucial aspect that we need to address,
Mm-hmm.
which is the social and ethical challenges
Yeah, that's a big one.
that come with dementia.
It is.
So in part 3 of our deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to tackle the tough questions,
All right.
exploring the social stigma,
Yeah.
the ethical dilemmas,
Mm-hmm.
and the systemic challenges that surround dementia care.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, so join us for the final part of our dementia deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll
Okay.
explore the human side of this complex issue. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive. And we've talked about, the science, the research, the treatments, but now I want to get into like the more human side of
Mhm.
dementia.
Yeah, the social and ethical aspects.
Exactly, because it's not just a diagnosis.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely not.
It affects people's lives in such profound ways.
Yeah, it touches on so many different aspects of our society.
And one thing that really struck me was the stigma
Mm-hmm.
surrounding dementia.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's like people are afraid to even talk about it.
It's almost like it's this taboo subject.
Yeah, and I imagine that silence just makes the burden even heavier
Oh, absolutely.
for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So how do we, as future mental health practitioners, help break down that stigma?
Well, I think it starts with education.
Okay.
We need to be open and honest about dementia,
Mm-hmm.
both with our clients and within our communities.
Yeah.
Challenging those misconceptions and really trying to create a more supportive environment.
So it's about shifting the narrative
Yeah,
from fear and avoidance to compassion and empowerment.
absolutely. We need to remember that people with dementia are still people.
Yeah.
They still have value. They still have so much to offer.
And that kind of brings up another ethical challenge, I think, which is the issue of autonomy.
Hmm.
As dementia progresses, individuals might struggle with, decision-making and things like that.
Yeah, how do we balance their right to make choices with the need to protect them?
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
It is, and there's no easy answer.
Yeah. I imagine these are tough situations to navigate.
They are, but I think open communication is key.
Okay.
Having these conversations early on,
Mm-hmm.
while the individual still has capacity,
Right.
involving them as much as possible in the decision-making process.
Yeah, that makes me think about advanced care planning,
Mm-hmm.
which I know can be a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah, for sure.
But it sounds like it's so important.
Absolutely, because it gives the individual a voice,
Yeah,
even when they may not be able to express their wishes later on.
right. And it can also help, I imagine,
Yeah,
relieve some of the burden on families and healthcare providers
absolutely. It takes the guesswork out of it.
who might otherwise have to make those tough decisions,
Yeah, exactly.
without that clear guidance.
It provides a roadmap.
Okay. And beyond those individual conversations,
Mm-hmm.
we have to look at the bigger picture too.
Yeah, the systemic challenges that can make it really difficult for people with dementia
Yeah,
and their families to access the care and support they need.
absolutely.
Things like inadequate funding
Right.
for research, for caregiver support, for long-term care services.
These are all big issues.
They are, and
Yeah.
they require systemic change.
So it's not just about being skilled clinicians.
No,
It's also about being advocates
absolutely.
for change,
Using our voices.
pushing for policies and resources that actually improve people's lives.
Exactly, because we have a responsibility
Yeah.
to speak up for those who may not be able to speak for themselves.
Wow, this deep dive has been such an incredible learning experience.
It has been really insightful.
It really has. It's opened my eyes to the multifaceted nature of dementia,
Mm-hmm.
from the science to the social impact and everything in between.
Yeah, it's so much more than just a medical diagnosis.
And I just want to say thank you
Oh, you're very welcome.
for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
I feel like I've learned so much,
I'm glad to hear that.
and I'm sure our listeners have too.
I hope so.
So to all of you future mental health heroes out there,
Yeah,
remember, you are not alone in this journey.
that's right.
There are amazing resources available
Yeah.
and a growing community of advocates and professionals who are dedicated to making a difference
Absolutely.
in the lives of those affected by dementia. So keep learning, keep questioning,
Yeah.
and keep advocating for a better future for all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's it for our Dementia Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you found it informative and inspiring, and we'll see you next time.